Every decision was predetermined for her from birth. The cameras continued to roll. The grins needed to be flawless. It has to be blind faith. Joanna Duggar was silently battling for her own voice behind the modest attire, the practiced interviews, and the ideal family image. From a young bride experiencing heartbreak no mother should ever experience to a tomboy growing up under the weight of a reality TV business, to a woman unlearning all she was taught while parenting children of her own. This is more than just a tale of rebellion or parenthood. This is the unvarnished, unadulterated tale of perseverance. You have never seen Joanna Duggar foresight like this. The Duggars didn't want you to see this version, so fasten your seatbelt. Joanna Duggar was never really anonymous from the day she was born on October 28, 1997. She was surrounded by blankets and the bright lights of reality TV when she was born, the ninth child in the renownedly huge Duggar family. The Globe encountered joy through a camera rather than a quiet family get-together or a newspaper announcing a birth. Millions of people watched her early years on the TLC network. When Joanna was born, her parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, were already making a name for themselves as the most well-known ultra-conservative Christian family in America. However, household entertainment did not emerge from the Duggar family's lives until the early 2000s. Initially, documentaries such as 14 Children and conceived as both endearing and controversial. The Duggars' unique way of life expanded into the popular television series 19 Kids, and counting after becoming pregnant once more. Joy, a bright-eyed, adventurous youngster who would grow up in front of the world, was smack in the center of this tornado. Joanna stood out at once, in contrast to several of her elder sisters who tended early on towards traditional femininity and domestic tasks. She was the Duggar clan's tomboy, the one who didn't mind getting her hands dirty, who excitedly joined her brothers in outdoor construction projects, and who climbed trees while wearing a denim skirt. The show's viewers frequently remarked on how Joy seems more comfortable hammering nails than making cookies. Many viewers found her immediately approachable due to her intense individualism and defiance of strict gender stereotypes. A welcome change in a household that is sometimes criticized for upholding rigid standards of femininity. But chore charts and family picnics weren't the only things Duggar was about growing up. The setting in which Joanna was growing up was a whole other universe. One where courtships took the place of dating, where scripture was used to encourage humility, and where every choice, down to the books you read or the music you listen to, was closely examined through the prism of biblical interpretation. Joy inherited this universe, where the camera was ever present. Joy learned early on how to carry herself, how to smile at cue, and how to fervently repeat the family's religious talking points. However, there were also times, particularly, Joy's raw personality would occasionally show in the later seasons of 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-off, Counting On. Fans could see that Joy was more than simply the script she had been given, whether it was through her deadpan humor, her ability to keep up with her brothers, or her obvious discomfort during some of the show's more planned bits. Life in the Duggar household was not an easy task behind the scenes. Individual demands were frequently subordinated to the requirements of the group, because there were 19 kids living together. Like her brothers, Joanna was brought up with a rigid schedule that included religious studies, housework, homeschooling, and unwavering obedience. Although other siblings like Jill and Jinger would later talk about their difficulties with such a restricted upbringing, she managed to handle it with a quiet strength. For a while, Joy kept a lot of her personal life private. There were high expectations. You were supposed to serve, smile, and submit as a Duggar girl. Joy, though, had grit. As she moved from her early years to her fans noticed that she began to disappear during her adolescent years. She didn't demand attention like others may, not because she wasn't present. She was frequently spotted lending a hand in the kitchen, watching over younger siblings, or helping out around the house. Joy wasn't ostentatious. Her silent strength shouted louder than any apparent sign of rebellion. Additionally, there was the implicit pressure of public perception. There was more to the Duggars than just family. They were a name. With each episode, each book publication, and the Esley family interview, the Duggars were establishing an empire founded on their principles of deference, modesty, courting, and unshakable faith. Joy Anna carried the burden of that brand as one of the youngest siblings maturing during their heyday. Both ardent admirers and scathing detractors closely examined everything she did, including what she dressed, how she spoke, and who she was spotted with. Then everything was different. The Duggar empire fell apart in 2015. There was news about Josh Duggar's history of abusing a number of his sisters during his adolescence, including Jill and Jessa. 19 children and counting were abruptly cancelled as a result of the controversy. Additionally, even if Counting On, a spin-off that focused on the adult siblings, was eventually released, the harm had already been done. After a family scandal of national proportions, Joy Anna, who was only 17 at the time, had to traverse her most formative years. This was more than tabloid gossip to Joy. She lived it. Her personal space was broken. The darkest secrets of her family, broadcast for public viewing. She never struck out though. She didn't run away from attention. She continued to move forward with her characteristic quiet resolve. This part of Joy Anna's journey is characterized by her tenacity. Other siblings began to turn away from the family's values or from public scrutiny, but Joy refused to be mindlessly submissive and was dedicated to making something significant within the parameters she was familiar with. She wasn't merely getting by no longer in the spotlight. Within it, she was learning to take ownership of her tale. Joy Anna had grown into a young lady by the time Counting On came back on. She was a grounded, reflective woman who was still very much rooted in her family's values, but no longer the tomboyish child that viewers remembered. However, she was clearly starting to forge a course that was uniquely her own. The next significant phase of her life would be her courtship with Austin Forsythe. However, prior to getting married, having children, and Joanna had already demonstrated that she was more than just another Duggar girl. Even if she will suffer heartbreaking losses in the future, she was a strong, multifaceted individual with a really human upbringing. Under the shadow of a deteriorating heritage, in the harsh spotlight of celebrity, and still finding her light. The concept of courtship is more than just a romantic turning point for Duggar family followers. It's a religious rite of passage, a public ceremony, and a statement of intent. So take pleasure in Anna Duggar, the modest, tough-spirited tomboy. Ability to bounce back, started dating Austin Forsythe. The world looked on with interest and expectation. This was more than a romance. There was a tremor in the Duggar universe. For Joy, it also signaled the start of a significant change that would influence the remainder of her life. There was no weirder than Austin Forsythe. He had actually spent years with the Duggar family. Fans knew Austin, a family buddy who grew up going to the same religious camps and conferences, even prior to his and Joy's official relationship. Their bond started out as a friendship built on common values, outdoor experiences, and ties to the local community. But something changed when Joy reached her late teens. As their relationship grew stronger, the Duggars declared in November 2016 that Joanna and Austin were formally courting. Courtship is not the same as dating, according to Duggar. It's a planned, closely monitored route to marriage that is governed by stringent regulations and closely watched by parents. Don't kiss. No alone time, and definitely no touching other than a side embrace. There was a purpose behind every encounter. Courtship is essentially about honoring God, and always putting the other person first, as Joanna once stated. The announcement was unexpected by many fans. Joanna, who was just 19 at the time, had always seemed less interested in romance and more focused on practical tasks, whether it was constructing projects, watching kids, or helping out around the house, in contrast to her older sisters. However, from the start, Austin's romance gained speed on its own. Austin proposed to Joy during a nature walk in March 2017, just a few months after. The occasion was caught on camera, and it was obvious that Joy was ecstatic, in keeping with their outdoor personas. Fans hadn't seen the always grounded, unflappable Duggar daughter's joyful smile till she said yes. It was a brief engagement. Joy and Austin were married in a lavish ceremony on May 26, 2017, 3 months after they proposed, by around 1,000 visitors. The entire Duggar family was present during the wedding, which was held at Cross Church in Rogers, Arkansas. In a lace-draped gown, Joy looked stunning as she came down the aisle, leaving many of her admirers feeling a touch overwhelmed. Joy was crying as she said wedding vows, making it an emotional occasion. However, there was more to this fairy tale wedding than meets the eye. Some longtime friends expressed concern about Joy's early engagement and young age. She was just 19 when she was married. Followers. Many questioned whether Joy had been forced into marriage too soon, and if her decisions were more influenced by her family's and her church community's expectations than by her own preferences. However, Joanna, who never wavered, publicly defended her relationship and appeared dedicated to her chosen course. Austin Forsythe was also a fascinating character. He was a real estate investor and pilot who added a new dimension to the Duggar dynamic. Unlike some of the other Duggar husbands, Austin was more reclusive and tough. Appeared to like the limelight, but he adopted the family's principles and created a happy life based on parenting, hard work, and faith. Joy and Austin swiftly adapted to married life after their honeymoon in Switzerland, which was different from other Duggar couples' more low-key vacations. Fans started making predictions about a pregnancy a few weeks after the wedding. Joy was already anticipating the ideas that were prompted by her clothing choices and subliminal clues in her social media posts. Nixon. The couple declared in August 2017 that they were actually expecting their first child. Joy was radiant. Many admirers were ecstatic by the news, but it also sparked rumors that she might have become pregnant before the wedding, which is a major breach in Duggar society, where having sex before marriage is viewed as a moral failure. Although Joy and Austin never directly responded to the rumors, viewers and reviewers continued to argue over the timing. Joy continued to concentrate on her expanding family. Gideon Martin, their first child, was born to her on February 23, 2018. Forsythe. Like a lot of Joy's life, the birth was captured on camera for Counting On, including poignant moments of her protracted and challenging labor. When Joy negotiated parenting for the first time, viewers witnessed a raw, vulnerable side of her. Joanna and Austin had a special bond through it all. Despite being raised under the careful gaze of conservative expectations, fans and producers, Joy's marriage appeared to usher in a new era of personal autonomy. She looked into home remodeling projects with Austin, relocated, moved out of the Duggar parental system, and started making choices that felt more autonomous. They appeared willing to define their own definition of marriage and family, despite their continued adherence to their faith. However, cracks also started to appear. It wasn't always easy being married. Joy was still very young, and she was under additional pressure from her upbringing, popularity, and motherhood, in contrast to several of her sisters, who started to distance themselves from the limelight or embrace more progressive Christian behaviors. Joy stayed somewhere in the middle, faithful to her heritage while subtly changing. Tradition and passion were not the only aspects of their love story. It served as evidence of how deeply held ideas influence interactions in the Duggar world, and how real-world situations challenge such beliefs. The relationship between Joy and Austin would soon encounter additional difficulties. Others would break their hearts and make them re-evaluate all they believed they understood: the future, faith, and family. This was more than a simple courtship that ended in marriage. Joanna Duggar Forsythe would be put to the test not only as a wife, but also as a woman assuming her own authority in this crucible. Joanna's love story was everything but quiet, ranging from a fast-paced engagement to a tumultuous marriage and a whispered pregnancy. It was quick, passionate, emotional, and occasionally contentious. But one thing stayed the same throughout it all: Joy's steadfast devotion to her husband, the life they were creating together, and her faith. But what followed would rock them to their very foundations. A tragic event was imminent, and Joanna would soon have to deal with one of the most devastating periods of her life. A chapter that would put not only her love but also her fortitude, determination, and spirit to the test. From her early days of reality TV upbringing to her intense engagement with Austin Forsythe, Joanna Duggar Forsythe always seemed to possess a quiet strength. She seems to approach every new chapter with unwavering resolve. However, nothing could have adequately prepared her for motherhood, which would turn out to be both her greatest happiness and her greatest heartache. Joy revealed that she and Austin were expecting their first child in 2017, just a few months after getting married. In addition to celebrating, several fans pointed out that the news was made so soon after their May wedding, which fueled rumors that Joy had become pregnant before the wedding, a major taboo in Duggar society. In any case, the young couple appeared overjoyed, and Joy smiled at each picture. Promise, aspirations for an expanding family, and the start of her motherhood were all reflected in her grin. Joy gave birth to their baby, Gideon Martin Forsythe, on February 23, 2018. After 20 hours of hard labor, Gideon, who weighed more than 10 pounds, was delivered. Joy had initially intended to give birth at home, but when issues occurred, she had to be sent to the hospital. The family's reality show, Counting On, filmed the moment, giving viewers an uncensored a look at her resilience, courage, and the vulnerability of childbirth. As Joy fought through pain and fatigue, Austin, who was always the silent supporter, remained at her side. Joy's life changed with the arrival of Gideon. Being one of the Duggar children had dominated her early years, but now she was the protagonist of her own tale, with a family of her own. She jumped right into parenting, learning rituals, changing nappies, and finding her rhythm in a new existence focused on a small child. As she shared, fans watched milestones such as Gideon's first steps, family vacations, and remodeling tasks while carrying a baby. But tragedy quickly eclipsed the sweetness of new motherhood. Joy and Austin revealed their second child's impending arrival in 2019. Fans who had witnessed their family's growth were as thrilled as the pair. Joy loved her growing belly, chatted about desires, and shared sonogram photos. They had even decided to name their daughter Annabelle Elise. Then it was announced that rocked the fan base to its foundation. Joy and Austin were devastated to learn that their baby had lost its heartbeat at their 20-week anatomy exam. Halfway through her pregnancy, their baby, Annabelle Elise, had passed away in the womb. Later, Joy revealed the unvarnished specifics of the event, including how they cradled their dead child, cried together, and buried her wearing a gorgeous garment that Joy had sewn herself and a handwritten letter. It was more than a miscarriage. It was a death. A setback that changed the trajectory of their lives. By publicly expressing their sorrow, the couple broke the taboo that many families feel compelled to maintain around pregnancy loss. Heartbreaking pictures of Joy cradling Annabelle in the hospital were shared online. Her grief was evident in every line of her visage, which was firm despite being pale. Supporting letters flooded in from fans and other mothers. It was an unvarnished glimpse of pain that couldn't be tempered by religious platitudes. And for many, it was the first time they had witnessed such honesty from a Duggar. After that, happiness went silent. Posts on social media dwindled, and her gaze took on a new weight when she did show up. She was grieving but also recovering, and she found comfort in her faith in Gideon and Austin. She gradually started sharing more, including family updates, home videos, and then the news that she was pregnant again. Evelyn May Forsythe was born to the Forsythe family in August 2020. Her birth was a moment of salvation, when sadness gave way to light. Joy referred to her as a rainbow baby, a phrase that a child born following a loss. Fans were reminded of Joanna's tenacity once more when Evelyn arrived, bringing new happiness to the family household. Joy was candid about the difficulties she encountered behind the scenes, despite the excitement of new life. It was difficult to manage two small children, deal with postpartum feelings, and bear the scars of previous bereavement. She talked candidly about the worry that surfaced in interviews and vlogs, particularly during late-night feedings and times of overwhelming accountability. Joy was not exempt from the darkness that frequently accompanies motherhood, especially following loss. She also discussed the stress of disclosing every detail of her life on the internet. Even her most private moments were scrutinized, evaluated, and conjectured upon due to her public character. Her openness was lauded by several fans. Her parenting decisions were criticized by others. But Joy never wavered in her authenticity. She didn't filter or refine her approach. It was authentic, frequently untidy, and incredibly relatable. In 2022, Joy and Austin disclosed that their third child was on the way. Fans who recalled their prior defeat reacted to the news with a mixture of cautious hope and enthusiasm. Joy then gave birth to Gunnar James Forsythe, her third child, in May 2023. There were new challenges on the way this time. Joy started exhibiting signs of postpartum depression shortly after Gunnar was born. She revealed that she didn't experience the instant connection she had anticipated in a candid YouTube video. "I felt none," she acknowledged. "I loved him, but I felt distant, like I wasn't myself." This was a shocking admission from someone who grew up in a society that frequently portrayed motherhood as a woman's greatest calling. But Joy did something very few Duggar women had ever done in public. She sought help. With Austin's encouragement, she contacted a counselor and started therapy, giving herself time to think, cry, and heal. By doing this, she countered the stereotype that mothers must always be happy, cope, always be blessed. By being honest, Joanna Forsythe transcended her role as a Duggar daughter and a television personality to become a voice for mothers worldwide who have endured silent suffering, buried children, and doubted their value during the midst of postpartum pain. Joy's motherhood was not a neat arc of blessings and milestones. Rather, it was a battlefield of joy and sorrow, of fierce love and devastating loss. And in every moment, whether holding a newborn or lamenting a stillborn, Joy stood tall, raw and unwavering. Her story, which she shared in vlogs, Instagram posts, and candid interviews, struck a deep chord with women who could relate to her journey. She gave healing a name, gave grief a face, and most importantly, she demonstrated that strength comes from choosing to keep going, one breath at a time. Joy Anna continues to raise her 3 children, balance a marriage that is shaped by shared faith and hardship, and quietly step out of the long shadow cast by. Joy Anna Duggar Forsythe has never been the loudest Duggar. She wasn't the sister writing tell-all memoirs or the one making headlines for Fashion Rebellion or big city living, but rather the girl who preferred jeans under her skirts, the one who spoke with sincerity rather than showmanship. And her identity as a mother remains central, but it's not the perfect picturesque motherhood once packaged for reality TV. It's real, raw, and it's hers. When the cameras stopped rolling and the world saw less of the meticulously manicured Duggar brand, and more of the unvarnished woman behind it, Joanna's storms grew. Joy's 3rd child, Gunnar James Forsythe, was born in May 2023, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life, new motherhood and a full family of 5. But as the weeks passed, she sensed a change in herself. The world might have expected her to shine, to prosper, to resume content creation. Joy's words broke a generational pattern as she was raised in a faith community that often emphasized strength through silence and submission. "I just didn't feel connected," she admitted tearfully in the video, revealing that she was struggling with postpartum depression. Joy couldn't hide what she was truly feeling. She wasn't okay. In a brave move, she took to YouTube, her safe space since counting on ended, to share a raw, deeply personal truth. I felt like I was just going through the motions, baby," she said, shattering the idealized portrayal of Duggar motherhood that many people held. Duggar women were traditionally brought up to believe that having children was their greatest calling. There was no discussion of postpartum difficulties. They were, if anything, prayed away. Joy, however, was unique. In addition to acknowledging her mental health issues, she asked Austin for support. In a society when counseling is frowned upon, she made the audacious decision to contact a Christian counselor and start therapy. Is perceived as a lack of faith at times. Her openness struck a chord. Her channel was inundated with thank you notes from fans who shared their own stories of mother separation, anxiety, and postpartum depression. By speaking first, Joy had inadvertently created an opportunity for others to speak. Her mental conflict wasn't limited to the postpartum fog either. Joanna has also had to deal with a more complicated relationship with her family's legacy in recent years. Growing up in the shadow of, living under the rigid and frequently unforgiving interpretation of Christian fundamentalism that was based on the teachings of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP, which was led by the notorious minister Bill Gothard, was what Jean Bob and Michelle Duggar meant. The Duggar children were brought up to be completely obedient, to have little access to outside influences, and to believe that challenging authority was tantamount to challenging God. Joy's worldview started to falter as she grew older, not only in her own thoughts, but throughout the Duggar household. Jill and Jinger, her sisters, started to deviate from their parents' teachings. In particular, Jinger wrote about her spiritual deconstruction, and the emotional anguish she experienced as a result of IBLP in her 2023 book, Becoming Free Indeed. In addition, Jill published her memoir, Counting the Cost, detailing years of emotional distance from Jim Bob, as well as financial manipulation and parental control. Despite not having written a book, Joy was reading them, and more significantly, she was feeling them. Anna acknowledged that reading about her sister's experiences was a lot to process in a heartfelt video that was shared soon after the publication of her sister's books, Joy. As she acknowledged that she had her own doubts about her upbringing, her beliefs, and how to continue her religion as an adult, her voice broke. Even voicing doubt was a huge deal for someone who was so devoted to her family. Joy didn't explicitly criticize her parents, but her subtly strong resistance was effective. She started to make minor adjustments that are noticeable, exposing her shoulders in dresses, dressing in jeans, and allowing her children to play with toys that don't strictly fit the definition of modesty. She donned a sleeveless outfit in one wedding family portrait, which was previously unimaginable for a Duggar daughter. Joy had something different from Jill's treatment in Jinger's California: evolution in silence. However, it's difficult to balance personal beliefs in a well-known family. Joy remained close to several of her siblings who stuck to Jim Bob's principles. She had to balance loving her family, upholding her faith, and continuing to discover her identity outside of the role she had inherited. And thousands of people watched, commented, and conjectured as all of this happened. Then things took yet another tragic turn. Gunnar, Joy's son, had a respiratory scare in 2024 and was admitted to the hospital. Joy's YouTube video, which detailed her restless nights in the emergency department, detailed the incident. The horrifying noise of respiratory difficulties, and the realization that she might lose him. The worry was crushing for a mother who had previously buried a daughter. Fortunately, Gunnar made a full recovery, but the incident left Joy shaken. Fans remarked on how different she appeared in the days that followed, describing her as thinner, more worn out, and emotionally brittle. Joy subsequently said that the experience sent her into a spiritual tailspin. "I began to ask God why once more," she stated. "For what reason must I continue to endure suffering, sorrow, and fear?" These weren't the remarks made by someone practicing a profession. They came from a person who was struggling with God and attempting to navigate the haze. But Joy held on to one thing: honesty through it all. She made no concessions. She didn't pretend everything was fine by posting images that had been photoshopped. She recorded the truth. Raw prayers, overwhelming moments, and challenging talks with Austin. And by doing this, she provided her fans with something uncommon among reality TV offspring: a real-time spiritual journey. She also talked candidly about the burden of criticism, how others criticized even her most heartfelt posts. Joy failed to win, regardless of whether she was too close to her contentious parents or not, how she dressed, or how she held her child. However, she continued to share, and she regained a bit more of her voice with every post. Austin, however, continued to be her fulcrum. Although he wasn't as vocal as some of the other Duggar wives, he supported Joy throughout her darkest hours. Together, they rebuilt, grieved, and reinterpreted what family meant. They faced life as a team, one based on resilience rather than just common ideals, whether they were remodeling homes or dealing with difficult situations. One thing is evident as Joy ventures deeper into motherhood, feminism, and faith beyond the Duggar machine. There is no one else writing her tale anymore. Once living to satisfy her parents and producers, the girl is now a lady who is raising her own kids, asking her own questions, and creating a genuine life despite its flaws. Joanna's quiet resistance through counseling, truth-telling, and spiritual reevaluation is as revolutionary. Even though she may never publicly declare her disobedience, she is gradually learning how to live freely in a world that used to require compliance. For Scythe, Joy Anna Duggar once had a life planned out for her before she could walk. Her path seems predestined from the moment she was born into the renownedly huge Duggar family, influenced by her faith, her relatives, as well as fundamentalist regulations. She was the young bride, the obedient teen, the tomboy daughter, and finally the distraught mother. However, Joanna is doing something that few anticipated. She is writing her own tale, years after entering adulthood and going through the highs and lows that molded her soul. Furthermore, it doesn't resemble the script she was given as a kid. This new chapter did not appear overnight. It happened gradually as a result of silent choices and sorrow. Through self-reflection, the bravery to give up acting and begin making decisions. Joanna, who was once regarded as one of the most obedient Duggar daughters, started to softly but forcefully step outside the box her upbringing had built for her. And that's when it all started. Her looks was among the most obvious manifestations of this change. For many years, Duggar women were characterized by their ultra-conservative attire, which included long skirts, shoulder coverings, no trousers, and most definitely nothing too contemporary or worldly. However, Joy's outfit changed along with her perspective on the world. She started, far from the rigid standards of modesty enforced by her parents' views. She first wore jeans on a daily basis before switching to sleeveless dresses, and finally sharing a family photo from a wedding in which she was wearing a spaghetti-strap gown. However, this went beyond clothing. Identity was at issue. The small change in style represented something more profound. Joy was no longer trying to please her parents, her viewers on television, or even her detractors. She was reclaiming her body and her femininity by dressing for herself and her independence, one piece of clothing at a time. This newfound freedom started to show in her parenting approach as well. In contrast to Michelle Duggar, who brought her kids up with rigorous discipline, blanket training, and an assembly line mindset, Joanna took a more laid-back, intuitive, and contemporary approach. She frequently posts videos of herself engaging with her children in natural ways, which include asking them what they think, letting them explore freely, and even permitting screen time. A big no in her childhood household. She talks truthfully on the challenges of raising several small children, and isn't hesitant to express her feelings of exhaustion or overwhelm. Fans have most recently observed a change in Joy's birthday and holiday celebrations. These days, she selects customs that are more intimate to her family. She and Austin decorated their home with lights and ornaments, something her parents had previously avoided because they believed it to be excessively secular, instead of strictly adhering to Duggar-approved Christmas customs. They held birthday celebrations with themed decor and bouncy houses, choosing happiness above criticism. Joanna was no longer only living the same life over and over again. She was creating a life that mirrored her evolving self. Her relationship with her faith has also undergone significant transformation. Joy was brought up according to the Gothar method and IBLP principles, which gave her a template for how to live, pray, get married, and obey. However, as an adult, she started to disentangle her religious beliefs from the norms she had been taught as a child. Austin and she started going to another church that does not teach IBLP doctrine. Joy gently criticizes some of the ideologies she was brought up with in their YouTube videos, stating that she wants to teach her children about faith without the legalism and fear that influenced her formative years. She remarked, "I still love Jesus," once. She said, "But I'm learning that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to grow. That growth hasn't been without cost." Her older sisters, Jinger and Jill, published books that criticized the Duggar families. Joy found herself torn between ideology and control. She had a profound affection for her parents, on the one hand. However, she was unable to deny that some of the lessons they taught had left her in misery for a long time. Joy acknowledged in a vlog that reading Ginger's Becoming Free Indeed was eye-opening. She didn't belittle her sister's hardships, but she also didn't minimize her parents'. Joyce's path is particularly intriguing because of her complicated stance, which involves balancing loyalty with truth. She isn't going overboard. She's changing gradually, deliberately, and uniquely. That, in many ways, adds even greater impact to her metamorphosis. She serves as a link between worlds. Despite not adhering to all of her parents' regulations, the daughter continues to visit them. The sister who respects tradition without worshiping it. During this period of reinvention, her marriage to Austin has also strengthened. Many admirers first conjectured that Austin shared the Duggars' conservatism and rigidity. However, as time went on, he has proven to be a dependable, encouraging companion who supports Joy in being who she is. In addition to working with her in their house-flipping company and parenting routines, he supported her decision to seek counseling amid postpartum depression. Once thought to be strictly traditional, their chemistry now feels more like that of a team, equal, enduring, and respectful. Let's also discuss Joy's function as a content producer. Joy has subtly emerged as one of the most approachable Duggar influences after Counting On was discontinued. Her channel on YouTube lacks high-end production and smooth transitions. It seems to be a glimpse into everyday life, complete with sloppy kitchens and chattering toddlers. She is attempting to connect rather than to impress. And she has a connection. Hundreds of thousands of people watch her videos. She is believed by people, not because of scandal or spectacle. Her honesty is respected by her fans. They witness a woman who has experienced public scrutiny, religious strain, heartache, and stardom, yet she still arrives with grace and humility. She doesn't act like they're perfect. She cries when discussing her stillborn daughter, Annabelle, sighs when she burns dinner, and grins when her toddler doodles on the walls. She is authentic in every way. Joanna Duggar Forsythe is currently going through a period of self-discovery, reflecting rather than rebelling, and constructing something better out of the fragments of her past. Children's laughter, mismatched socks, and imperfect delight fill her home. Her religion is now resilient rather than inflexible. Her heart still has wounds, yet it's strong. And that might be the biggest victory of all. She made headlines without revealing anything. She didn't have to destroy all relationships or alter everyone's opinions. All she had to do was be herself. By doing this, Joanna has transcended her roles as a reality star, a Duggar daughter, a young mother who married young, and a young grieving mother. She is now a woman in her own right. A mother who may choose happiness while grieving for a child. A woman who is able to respect her family while still ask them questions. A woman with room for ambiguity who can be a mother, a wife, a sister, and a believer. This is the happiness that the world didn't anticipate because of Anna Duggar's foresight. The story doesn't end there. Through fire, anguish, doubt, and healing, Joanna Duggar Forsythe has emerged not unharmed but unstoppable. The mother who dares to speak the truth, and the reality TV darling. A woman crafting her own narrative after being an obedient daughter. To be heard, she didn't yell. She just lived, and that was plenty. The girl in the rear suddenly took the lead as the woman in the forefront.